What's up everybody? On today's video we're going to be comparing the cost of apartments in Florida from city to city, and to compare apples to apples we're going to be looking at luxury apartments that offer most of the amenities you would want. We're talking pools, gym, gated entrances, and other amenities. So just remember that this is just a general idea. We have no association with any of these apartment complexes. So take this information as general references and not actual numbers you can count on, since we're not associated with any of the apartment complexes we're going to be talking about. Today's footage is from beautiful Anna Maria Island outside of Bradenton, Florida. So as you guys enjoy the beach, I'm going to break down for you exactly what these apartment complexes can cost you in different cities throughout the state of Florida. We'll start off with some of the more affordable areas and progress into more expensive options as we head on through the video. For about $12.50, you can get a one-bedroom apartment in the area of Hialeah if you don't mind Udelki's birthday party carrying on till 3 in the morning. In the Ocala area, you can actually find an apartment for less than $1,500 that's new with a pool and a lot of amenities, being one of the most affordable places you can get apartments in Florida. It's going to be hard to find luxury apartments here, but if you're just looking for a basic, nice, decent apartment, Ocala is definitely affordable. But keep in mind that luxury apartments, while being more expensive, are going to include your internet and a lot of your utilities, which means that when you start to throw in the cost of utilities, internet, and other services, it can actually cost about the same to end up in a mediocre apartment as it would to end up in a luxury apartment. And more affordable apartments can actually have larger deposits and requirements. So as we go through these first few cities, just keep in mind that you're not really comparing apples to apples because there's a lot of variables, like the absence of newer apartment buildings in the Ocala area. You'll even run into newer apartments offering move-in specials, while older, more affordable apartments actually have deposits. So if you have a luxury apartment and you got good credit, you could actually end up getting a much better deal, more bang for your buck, if you're going with luxury apartments than going for affordability. While home prices in Florida are not the highest, your income to housing costs, especially if you're renting, can be among the worst in the country. It's actually as expensive to rent in Florida as it is in New York City or San Diego, California. If you're looking at markets like South Florida, places like Naples, Fort Lauderdale, and Miami. And while most other states are fighting to create jobs and opportunities, the state of Florida is fighting to eliminate jobs and opportunities. In places like Lakeland, you can actually find an apartment for as little as $1,400, but there's no real job opportunities there. So I'll give you the suggestion that you may be better off trying to figure out how to pay $1,800 or $2,000 in a place where there's more jobs and opportunities than you are getting stuck in one of the most affordable cities in Florida where there's no options to make money. In the Tallahassee area, you can actually get a 2-bedroom, 2-bath for under $1,700. If you go to a 1-bedroom, you can find it even more affordable. Reviews do say that there's a lot of cockroaches in the city of Tallahassee, so if you're afraid of that, this city may not be good for you. Of course, being a college town, you can expect a lot of noise, partying, loud car exhaust. In Gainesville, you can actually find studios for under $1,400, and if you just want a regular apartment, about $1,690 will get you into a 1-bedroom. And if you want to get to a 2 or 3-bedroom, it seems like one of the cheapest places in Florida where you can upgrade to a larger unit and not have to pay so much. Both Gainesville and Tallahassee offer a lot of affordability, but being party college towns, don't expect to have the best maintenance and quiet, peaceful moments. In Panama City Beach, you can actually get a 1-bedroom apartment in the 1500s that's close enough to walk to the beach. However, when you factor in utilities, the cost of internet, which is not included in the apartment, the associated deposits for those services, and the fact that it's a tourism-based city with very little job opportunities, it actually isn't that great of a deal. So while the apartment unit itself doesn't seem that expensive, when you factor everything else in, it actually comes out to be a little bit more expensive. Being able to walk to the beach is definitely a plus, but the waters along the panhandle are usually not going to be as warm as further south in Florida, which means you're only going to be able to go in the water without freezing to death during certain parts of the year. Not to mention that you're several hours from any other large city. If you need an airport or anything else, you're going to have some seriously considerable travel time. So while the initial apartment cost and being close to the beach may sound attractive, when you factor everything else in, it's kind of questionable. I actually found apartments in Miami going between $600 to $1,500. However, it looks like a complete zombie apocalypse. So if you don't mind living in an absolutely scary part of Miami, you can actually find options for as little as $700. I'm going to guess these are government subsidized apartments with a lot of requirements. You can still find apartments in downtown Miami for as little as $1,500 or $1,600. So I guess if you value your housing more than your life, this could definitely be an option. And yes, they actually have built new luxury apartments in absolutely horrible neighborhoods in Miami, with the stipulation that some units are more affordable. More than move-in ready, these are probably going to have a very lengthy waiting list. So don't think you're going to readily be able to move into a $700 apartment in Miami. Yes, it exists, but realistically, you're just not going to be able to get your hands on it. Alright guys, so now we're going to step it up into a more expensive category. However, in this category, there's a lot of pluses, like 1 month move-in specials free, access to better job markets, and move-in packages that include more utilities and services that you won't have to pay on top of your monthly payment. So while the price tag of these units may seem kind of high, keep in mind that they're including a lot of things you're not going to have to pay for. Gyms, pools, very reliable high-speed internet is included in most of these units. Dog washing stations, clubhouses with pool, car washes, pool tables, dog washing stations. Those are all things you're not going to have to pay for anymore because they're included within your community. Starting at about $1,780, you can actually get a studio in the Fort Myers area for under $1,800 within walking distance to a Starbucks and a fairly luxurious setting. For about $2,600 to $2,800, you can get yourself into a 3-bedroom, 2-bath apartment or single-family home in the Fort Myers area. We're talking new construction in fast-growing areas. For about $1,800, you can get a small apartment in the Venice area, a suburb of Sarasota, a small town that has beaches, a beautiful pier, a lot of new construction, clean, safe area. Plenty of work in this area if you're into construction trades. For about $1,850, you can get yourself a small apartment in the Jacksonville area, Jacksonville beaches along the coast. A great option for people looking for a good food scene, to have a little bit more of a southern vibe than the rest of Florida, and of course, nature lovers. Jacksonville is surrounded by many waterways, so if you'll enjoy fishing or other water activities, you should have plenty of options. However, the water clarity in the beaches here are definitely nothing like what you get in South Florida. Also, in the $1,800 price range, you can get a small apartment in East Tampa, a little bit further from the beaches than what you would get in Jacksonville, but nonetheless, much better beaches. The downsides would be traffic congestion, toll roads. It's a fairly unsightly urban area where highways, residential, and commercial areas are randomly spread out in a confusing manner. Starting the high 1800s, you can get a very nice newer apartment in the Lakewood Ranch area, right outside of Tampa, a suburb of Sarasota and Bradenton. It's a safe, clean area with access to incredible beaches from the Tampa area all the way back down to Sarasota. About a 35 to 40 minute drive to the beach we're on right now in Ana Maria Island. And while renting in Lakewood Ranch is somewhat affordable considering how clean and safe of an area it is, buying houses here is another story, much more expensive. Definitely one of the most competitive places for renters to get the best for their money, getting all the safety and suburban life you could possibly want for a price that even a working class person can afford. With easy access to labor markets in Tampa, Sarasota, and Bradenton, finding a job here is not a problem. Currently, I live in this area and I absolutely love it. One of the biggest downsides is just how bland and suburban it feels at times. If you don't mind being in a much smaller apartment in about the same price range, you can find a very small apartment in downtown Orlando. But let me give you a warning, living in Orlando means that whatever money you do make is going to fly away faster than you could ever imagine. And it's one of those cities where you spend more money than you think is reasonably possible. Stepping up to a larger apartment, however, will easily set you back into the 2000s. So if you're thinking about a suburban area outside of Orlando like Davenport or Claremont, you're easily going to spend more than $2,000 a month for a one-bedroom small apartment. Orlando's suburb of Lake Nona, for about $20.50 you can get a nice small apartment. This is a suburb where Disney was planning to transport 1,000 workers from California. This region of Orlando's attracted a lot of companies and industry, and while they weren't able to close this deal, which would have been about $1 billion, there's definitely a lot going on in this suburb as far as healthcare and investments. Jobs here are good. The area is clean, safe, and pretty. You're not too far from Daytona beaches. It's really a great place to be, one of the cleanest, safest communities in Florida. In the Naples area, you can still get a small apartment for $2,200, while individual units, people may try to get as much as $3,500 for them, especially after Hurricane Ian or during the season. With seasonal fluctuations and the hurricane, some apartments have gone for as much as $8,000 a month in Naples, which is absolutely insane. The city doesn't even offer anything to justify that price. But if you can find an apartment for $2,200 in Naples, you're doing pretty good. For $2,200, you should also be able to find a nice small apartment somewhere in the Bonita Springs area, which is just to the north of Naples, conveniently located between Naples and Fort Myers with great beaches. It's a very nice place to live. One of the biggest downsides to living in Bonita Springs is how bad the traffic gets during the wintertime. Living near the Tampa airport or in a more centralized part of Tampa, a nice newer apartment, small, will run you about $2,250. The city offers a lot of culture and you're going to have access to a lot of infrastructure, which should make life fairly easy. And if you know how to shop around, food costs in Tampa can sometimes be more affordable than other parts of the state. For about the same price, you can get a fairly nice small apartment in the Jupiter area north of West Palm Beach. It's a lot cleaner of an area with great beaches, but probably not as much work and access to infrastructure as you would have in Tampa. I would definitely say for $2,250, Jupiter is a pretty good deal. Unless you're broke, then you're typing something like this. Jose, I live in my grandma's basement in Alabama and I only pay 2 cartons a month. If you want to live in a nice Miami suburb like Kendall, technically you can find units, I don't know, for $2,000 if it's a small studio, but realistically, you're going to need about $2,300 to be in the Kendall area, and there's going to be a lot of variables here. I mean, for one, you just don't find that much new construction in some of these nicer parts of Miami, at least not apartment complexes that have pretty good space between them. You're talking high-rise buildings, so it's kind of hard to find comparables here. You're going to find yourself in an older apartment complex. It's going to have a lot more maintenance issues because it's not going to be a newer building. So when you talk about the Miami area, it's kind of tricky. But you should be able to find a 3-2-4 plan with like a garage for something like $3,000 a month. I know some people pay way more than that to be on the water, but we'll get to that in a minute. For about $2,400, you could end up in Broward County. That's the Fort Lauderdale area. And if you start to strip away the age of the building and a lot of the amenities, you could even get as low as $2,000. But realistically, $22,000 to $24,000 is what a small apartment in the Fort Lauderdale area will cost you. Just about everybody that I know that lives in Broward absolutely loves it. While living is somewhat expensive, there's a lot of things to do in this area. A tiny studio in downtown Miami will easily set you back about $2,750. For a little bit more money, you can get yourself in Weston, a far out suburb, a more generous 2-bedroom apartment for something like $2,900 a month. A lot of these Miami area apartments are what they're called 10X apartments. A guy that's called Rick Cardone or some crap like that, can't remember his name. Guy's a total internet clown. goes on there bragging about how he's a billionaire, he's got a crap load of money. But if you look at the reviews of all their apartment buildings, they're usually really badly rated. Usually I go on Google Maps, and if they're not rated at least a 4.0, I wouldn't get into these apartments. Always look at the reviews of these newer luxury apartments. Anything less than a 4.0 isn't even worth looking at. You wouldn't believe how many of these really expensive luxury apartment setups in Miami are completely bogus scams. And I'm not saying 10X in particular. I'm just saying do your research and make sure that wherever you land has a good website, good reviews, and everything is up and running in order. Because in the Miami area, you can have your own car towed away from your own parking spot and still have to pay for it if you want to get that car back. So I'll give you that warning. If you're looking into the Miami area, make sure you're very careful about the reputation of who you're buying or leasing from. If you want to end up in downtown Fort Lauderdale in a nice size apartment, you're going to need at least $3,600. And really, anything above $3,600, you're just going to have to call for details. So penthouses, apartments overlooking the beach or on an island, anything of that sort is so expensive that you're not just going to publish the price. A lot of those deals are going to be small apartments that are owned by somebody, and you're going to have to negotiate a price with an individual. So anything above that price range, it's going to be difficult to find those prices printed on paper. And at that point, you get into the realm of these apartments are most likely going to be vacation rentals going for a monthly or weekly basis, and it's less attractive for somebody to rent you a beachfront condo on a yearly basis. It's almost impossible to find. And really the closest you're going to get affordably in a small apartment where you can maybe walk to the beach is something like in Sarasota, where you can get a really small apartment for $2,800 where you could maybe bike to the beach. Alright guys, so there it is. That is roughly what it costs to rent an apartment in Florida. And for the most part, these are nice apartments with a lot of amenities. I chose a 1-bedroom in case you're a single person or a couple who's willing to step it down to a smaller size apartment just to make the Florida dream come true. Honestly, living in Florida, especially near beaches, is actually pretty awesome of a life experience. And it's one of the places that I would love to continue living, but your money has to be in order because these areas are very expensive. Many times if you rent from an individual, you'll never really be able to fix your credit score, and renting from an apartment complex can help make you look better on paper. So when you go to buy a house in the future, it's kind of like a stepping stone to something better. And really, renting isn't as bad as some people put it out to be. With hurricanes and increasing insurance costs in Florida, leaving all that up to somebody else isn't always a bad thing. I love going to places that are more affordable like Alabama, West Virginia, or Maine, and hearing people complain about paying $1,000 rent, making $18 to $20 an hour. Not only will you struggle to find a job that pays you $18 an hour in Florida, but your rent will be at least twice that. Many people move to Florida thinking that they're going to make more money or as much money as they made back in another state. They fail to realize that in Florida, not only are you expected to pay more for rent, you're likely going to make a lot less than you ever imagined you would. And if you're having a taco or a pineapple drink along the coast, you can spend as much as $30 or $40 for something that isn't really that special. A lot of times you're not even paying for what you're getting, you're paying for the fact that it's on an island or on a beach. So don't think that living in Florida near beaches and these attractions, you're going to spend money going to these places. This is why you live in Florida. So it's not like living in a small rural place where you're not going to spend money. If you move to Florida, consider spending more money on entertainment. So if you're considering a move to Florida, just budget more for entertainment than you could imagine, less for income than you think is humanly possible, and of course, we all know what cost of housing is like these days. Alright everybody, that is what it costs to rent an apartment in different Florida cities. I hope you found this video very informative. And remember that we are not associated or promoting any of these apartments. We're just giving you a general idea of what things are allegedly going for on the internet right now.